Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jakrich. Supporters of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan had the edge on Friday in Pakistan's elections results from over 100 seats. Local media said after vote counts were hit by unusual delays that the government ascribed to a suspension of mobile phone services. Geo News said independents, who mostly owe allegiance to Khan, had won 47 of 106 seats for which it had results. A total of 265 seats were contested in Thursday's election. By 0800 GMT, the Election Commission of Pakistan had announced 70 of official results, with independents getting 24. The Pakistan People Party of Bilawar Bhutto Zardari, the son of assassinated Premier Benazir Bhutto, also got 24, while former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz won 18. The rest were won by small parties. Khan is in jail and his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party was barred from the election, so his supporters contested as independents. Analysts have predicted there may be no clear winner, adding to the woes of a country struggling to recover from an economic crisis while it grapples with rising militant violence in a deeply polarized political environment. A delay in the announcement of results was unusual for elections in Pakistan. Karachi's stock index and Pakistan's sovereign bond fell because of the uncertainty. An internet issue was the reason behind the delay, Zafar Iqbal, Special Secretary at the ECP, said without elaborating. The government said it suspended the mobile phone services ahead of the election on Thursday as a security measure, and they were being partially restored. Barclays, Britain's biggest lender to the oil and gas industry, said it will stop direct financing of new oil and gas fields and restrict lending more broadly to energy companies expanding fossil fuels production. The project's finance curbs are not expected to have a major impact on its business given its limited market share. The bank is not in the top 15 of major project finance banks globally, and most have yet to adopt similar restrictions. From 2025, the bank will cut broader financing to non-diverse companies such as pure play exploration companies if more than 10% of their expenditure goes towards expanding production over the longer term. Barclays Group Head of Sustainability Laura Barlow said the new policy was part of its commitment to reduce emissions linked to the bank's lending and bolster finance to greener alternatives. Barlow said exiting upstream energy clients that breach the 10% threshold would go through an enhanced oversight process that also looked at the client's investment in decarbonization. Barclays joins banks such as HSBC and BNP Paribas that are tightening oil and gas lending while pledging to increase funding to areas such as renewable energy that can help cap global warming, targeting $1 trillion in such lending by 2030. Non-profit Share Action, that had pressured Barclays to do more to help tackle climate change, said that in response to the new curbs, it had withdrawn a proposed shareholder resolution calling the bank to stop funding new expansion projects. Emissions linked to Barclays lending to the energy sector dropped 32% between 2020 and 2022, beating a target reduction of 15%, the bank said in its 2022 annual reports. Additional restrictions introduced by Barclays include no financing for exploration and production in the Amazon, and from June 2024, no financing to firms that get more than 20% in their production and unconventional sources such as oil sands. All Barclays corporate clients in the energy sector will be expected to present transition plans or decarbonization strategies by January 2025, alongside 2030 methane reduction targets and a commitment to end all non-essential venting and flaring by 2030. The client would also need to have near-term net zero aligned targets for Scope 1 and 2 emissions, those linked to their own operations and energy usage by January 2026. Job cuts at Western investment banks in Asia are expected to increase this year as revenue pressures rise due to deepening economic and market turmoil in China. Even as deal prospects brighten in Japan and India, headhunters and bankers said a new round of staff cuts that began in the late 2023 on the Chinese mainland and Hong Kong, key regional investment banking hubs, will gather pace in the coming months. They added, US boutique bank Lazard announced internally early last month, it would close its Belgium office, resulting in some employees being laid off, while others were to be relocated to Hong Kong. Two people with the knowledge of the move said. Its European peer Rothschild disbanded its Shanghai-based team in the fourth quarter. Two separate people with knowledge of the matter said Bank of America last month announced job cuts of more than 20 bankers in Asia. The sources declined to be named as they are not authorized to speak to the media. China's stock market hovering around 5 years low and the country's weaker than expected recovery from the pandemic have deepened investors' worries and sourced companies' domestic demand outlook. Geopolitical tensions have also driven foreign investors away. Russian President Vladimir Putin said in an interview that aired on Thursday that Russia will fight for its interests to the end, but has no interest in expanding its war in Ukraine to other countries such as Poland and Latvia. In his first interview with an American journalist since before Russia's invasion of Ukraine nearly 2 years ago, Putin said Western leaders have come to realize it was impossible to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia and were wondering what to do next. Putin also said he believed it was possible to reach an agreement to free U.S. journalist Ivan Gershkovich of the Wall Street Journal, who has been detained in Russia for nearly a year and is awaiting trial on spying charges. Putin made the comments in a more than 2 hours interview with conservative talk show host Tucker Carlson that was conducted in Moscow on Tuesday and aired on tuckercarlson.com. Asked if he could imagine a scenario in which he would send Russian troops to Poland, a NATO member, Putin spoke in Russia and his remarks were dubbed into English. He began with lengthy remarks about Russia's relations with Ukraine, Poland, and other countries. Putin devoted a substantial part of the interview to complaining that Ukraine had been on the verge of agreeing a deal to end hostilities at talks in Istanbul in April 2022, but backed away, he said, once Russian troops withdrew from near Kiev. Putin was last formally interviewed by a U.S. media outlet in October 2021 when CNBC's Hadley Gamble spoke to him. The Carlson's interview came as U.S. lawmakers debate whether to provide more money for Ukraine's war efforts. It also aired the same day as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky replaced the Popular Army chief with his ground forces commander. A procedural vote in the U.S. Senate helped advance a bill that includes $61 billion in new funds for Ukraine, but it faces uncertainty in the Republican-dominated House of Representatives, where dozens of members, particularly those closely allied with former President Donald Trump, have voted against Ukraine aid. Belkin bag maker Hems said on Friday that it would raise prices again this year after sales jumped 17.5% in the fourth quarter of 2023, continuing its track record of outpacing rivals when economic conditions deteriorate. Shares in the company opened 4.2% higher after sales for the 3 months to the end of December totaled 3.36 billion euros, that is $3.62 billion, up 17.5% at constant foreign exchange rates and ahead of expectations for 14% growth according to Visible Alpha consensus estimates. Ham said it will pay a 4,000 euros bonus to each of its over 22,000 employees worldwide. The company plans to lift prices by between 8% and 9% this year globally. Executive Chairman Mars told reporters. Hams raised prices by around 7% globally last year to account for higher production costs, with the expectation of the US, where increases were around 3%, and Japan, where they were in the double digits due to currency fluctuations. Hems have become one of the most consistent performers in the luxury goods industry thanks to its classic designs and carefully management of production and stocks, which helps maintain the label's aura of exclusivity. The French luxury label clocked strong growth in all regions and flagged dynamic growth in China, where investors have been worrying about a stuttering recovery post-COVID. Hems has a higher valuation than rival luxury groups. Its 12 months forward price to earning ratio based on projected earnings is 47.7 according to LSEG data that compares with LVMH and at 24.2 and Kering at 15.6. Handbags like the coveted $10,000 plus Birkin model are affordable only for the wealthiest shoppers who are typically more immune to unfavorable economic conditions. That is the size of Top Accolade Global News Updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Friday.